What is different about your product?
You got a story to tell, something gonna connect to somebody else.
How to actually run a business versus having a vision for a business.
A lot of people come to me and they say they're scared to take that next leap.
Visual design is always going to be driven by the vision.
And I just was like, how do I do this?
What am I adding that they don't have?
Hey, brand builders, ready to take your brand to the next level? I'm Dana Ammons, and welcome to the Brand Blueprint.
Hello, I'm Heloise Lanoix, and welcome to this special episode of the Brand Blueprint, where I will talk about one of the most important aspects of brand identity, the visual design of your brand. We aren't heavily covering this topic in our identity and positioning segment because our focus is geared towards the entrepreneur and startup aspects of creating a brand. However, getting the right design for your brand is obviously very important. In this video, we're going to cover several topics, including what is a brand identity, why is it important, and how is it used, the basic elements of a visual identity that you will need to develop early on, and what are your options for creating and developing your visual identity, as well as some basic tips and tricks to make this process easier. A brand's identity dictates how a brand looks, sounds, and feels. It encompasses visual aspects such as logos, colors, typography, images and illustration styles, and video, as well as more abstract elements such as personality, tone of voice, marketing style, messaging, advertising, and much more. Having a defined brand identity allows all of a brand's content to appear unified in look and feel, which in turn allows them to better diffuse their message across multiple channels while retaining awareness, loyalty, and recognition. These aspects are not thrown together randomly. The goal of a successful brand is to have a strong story that resonates with their customers and allows them to sell their product, service, or idea. The brand identity should strongly support and visually personify that story in order to effectively connect to its customers. Here are some good questions to ask yourself as you develop your brand identity. What is my brand vision? Or how do I see the ideal future outcome? What is my brand mission? Or how will my brand affect change towards that ideal outcome? What are my brand's values? Is it sustainability, elegance, affordability, inclusivity, or even exclusivity? What is my brand's personality? Are we serious and educational? Are we fun and humorous? Are we witty, clever, friendly, posh, elegant? Are we rough? Are we adventurous? How does my brand connect with people? Through the tone of voice, through the messaging, what stories do we tell? What channels do we use? What brands are we similar to, different from? What is our niche? What is our competition? Or who is our competition? How is my brand different from similar brands? What do we bring to our customers? Finally, I want to end by saying that it is important to develop your brand's core identity before jumping into creating visuals. While having a beautiful logo or typography is really exciting, a brand's strength is in its story. And as I said earlier, the visual identity should support that story. Nobody will care about your brand if it's just visually stunning. Those visuals have to connect with the core values that make up the who am I of your brand. So, if you haven't done that yet, go do that first. A brand's identity is kind of like the rules that dictate who are we for the brand. Therefore, the most common way to present them and keep them up to date are in a rule book, so to speak, commonly called a brand guide or style guide. This can include the visual identity rules by themselves, but more commonly include both visuals and personality rules. The style guide of a brand can be shared with designers, collaborators, marketing agencies, and any other entities that touch on or work with your brand to allow them to properly represent the brand in their work. An example of this is sharing your style guide with your social media content creator so that their posts align with your identity, or sharing it with your website designer so that the layout, colors, and images are all in line with your brand. Another example is sharing the style guide with a hired marketing agency so that their advertisements use the correct tone of voice for your brand. Style guides can be presented in multiple formats. Traditionally in a presentation or easily shareable PDF, there are now online platforms which specialize in digital style guides with downloadable assets used for your brand. While these services can cost slightly more, they allow you to easily keep your brand style guide up to date, shareable, and usable for whoever needs it. Now that we're sure that you've defined the personality of your brand, it's time to move on to the visual identity. A visual identity, obviously, encompasses all the visual aspects of the brand that we mentioned before. The logo, the colors, the typography, the illustration, the images, and the videos. The basic elements can be narrowed down to the logo, colors, and typography. If you can define these aspects, the rest can be developed as needed. While I won't be walking you through step-by-step instructions on creating your visual identity, here are a few things to keep in mind as you do develop it. First, always refer back to your core values and identity as you create the visual aspects. If you are a fun, humorous brand, your logo, colors, and typography should be bright and happy. If you are creating an austere, elegant brand, it doesn't make sense to use a funky handwritten script. Also, keep things simple, stupid. Simplicity is key. Don't make things too complicated with dozens of colors and multiple font pairings. Keep things simple. Your logo is your face. Is it a graphic, a monogram, an illustration? Make sure your choices align with your brand's personality and identity. If you have several versions of your logo, for example, an illustrative graphic and a simplified monogram, how well do they relate? Are they obviously from the same brands? Are they obviously from the same family? These are really important details to think about. Does your logo work across multiple sizes? Does it work on light, dark, and complex backgrounds? You might need several versions of your logo, but the main logo should work across as many options as possible. And if you find that you need a lot of versions of your logo in order to work across multiple channels, maybe that's a sign that you need to simplify your designs. Again, keep things simple. A good base to start with is one main color, one or two secondary colors, and an accent color, along with black and white. You can always add more colors or expand the range if necessary. However, keeping a simple color palette will allow a more unified look across all channels and usages. A great free resource that I recommend for coming up with preliminary color palettes is coolers.io. This is starting to get repetitive, but simplicity is key. Stick to a 2 font pairing, one for headers and one for body, and you'll probably do fine. If you do need more styles, try making smaller changes such as using your body font in bold for subheadings rather than adding new fonts. A great free resource for looking up font pairings and seeing them used in examples is fontsinuse.com. There are several ways to develop and create a visual identity. You can do it yourself, you can hire someone, usually a freelancer, to help you, or you can hire an agency to develop it for you. All of these options have pros and cons, so let's go through them one by one. If you have a clear vision, are highly creative, and have the technical know-how, doing it yourself is the cheapest and sometimes best option, since you can create your visual identity exactly how you envision it. One common pitfall of doing everything yourself, however, is forgetting to define all of the rules in a style guide, since you understand all the rules for your own brand yourself. It might seem like a small thing to skip, but it will create problems in the future as you scale your brand or collaborate with others. Or as you realize that you've forgotten to set standards in something important, like logo size, making you lose recognizability across different channels. Another common pitfall in doing everything yourself is creating in a bubble. Make sure you get feedback from people you trust along your identity development journey. If you have a more or less clear vision, but lack the creative or technical ability, hiring a freelancer can be the right move. A freelancer can charge per project or per hour, and the price can vary depending on their skills and experience. However, they have a lower price point than hiring an agency. Common pitfalls of hiring a freelancer can be not getting the results you want, the project not being completed in a prompt manner, or the price going higher than you expected. The good news is that there are several ways to get around these problems, and as a freelance creative myself, I have several recommendations for you here. The first thing I recommend, and yes, I know I'm getting repetitive, is to have your brand identity, personality, and core values already defined. Having these elements written out will help your freelancer understand your brand better. The second thing I recommend is to write a project brief. This will define the scope of your project and keep things clear with whoever you hire. Some things you can include here are deliverables, such as what you want delivered and what file format you want them in, the timeline, the budget, and the number of revisions included in your project. Lastly, I will recommend that you do your due diligence. There are many places to find freelancers for your work, Upwork and Fiverr, for example, and these platforms host millions of options. Try to choose someone who has both skill and experience in whatever it is you currently need. Finally, if you are 100% on the business side and feel completely lost on the creative side of developing your brand identity, you can still hire a freelancer, but an agency might be the best move for you. This is the most expensive option, as an agency will have a team working closely with you on your project brief. You can have the option to hire them for the project or put them on a monthly retainer to take care of all creative support. You can work with an agency with less preparation on your end. However, having a clearly defined brand identity already set up will definitely make the work easier and faster. All right, that's everything for this special episode of the Brand Blueprint, where I have tried to pack a mini masterclass's worth of information on creating the visual identity of your brand in under 20 minutes. I hope it was helpful. I'm Heloise Lanoix, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us on the Brand Blueprint journey. Make sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms to stay updated. Watch the full episodes on our YouTube channel for an in-depth experience. Don't forget to subscribe to our website at thebrandblueprint.biz for exclusive content and materials. We're everywhere you need us to be.